Hey, this is an update to my how to scream with false chord, my method, that video that I had put out. Clarifying a few things that I said and just adding some new information that might help if that video alone wasn't enough to get you to the false chord sound or to get you to the scream. I'm going to use a little bit of linguistic terminology. Quick disclaimer, I'm not a linguist, I'm not a vocal coach, I'm neither of those. I'm a guy who knows how to scream without hurting myself, and I found some linguistic terminology that really helps it make sense to me, and helps me scream and do my thing a little bit better. So, with that out of the way, we talked about basically there's different ways to make your false chord distortion, right? You can do the grunt, the or the sigh, the or any number of things to make the false chord distortion. The method that I prefer is not that. It's a very vibrating kind of sound, like yeah. Think throat singing, talking like that. And the reason that I prefer this is because there's something called attack, which is the clicking of your vocal cords during certain words. If you've ever heard the word like Hawaii, E, or when you start a vowel or something, you got ah. So the reason that I prefer to do the hum, the yeah, is because it doesn't have as much attack as if I say oh, right there. Now, sometimes when you're saying words, you might have a little bit of attack. There's no way to get rid of it entirely, but it's in your best interest to reduce it, especially when learning. Because when false chord screaming, you can have a thing where you're using your epiglottis instead, and it sounds kind of similar to false chord screaming, but it's very painful. If you do it this way, you won't start doing the epiglottis scream, and you won't have to go back and unlearn it and learn the right way to do it. You'll just do it the correct way, and you won't have that painful start. And so the best way to do that is by eliminating attack. And so I'll go over two real quick things that are good for eliminating attack, and then I'll demo it. So the first thing is, if you listen to a lot of screaming, you'll hear them start, even if a word starts with a vowel, you'll hear them start with a consonant, like an L or an R or a V. Right? You'll hear that V right there. Or let me go. Even if it starts with an A. I can't do this. Right? And you'll hear that consonant, which it's almost always a fricative or an approximant. You don't need to know what that means, but basically, if you start a word with a vowel, you will have attack. So when practicing until you get it down, I would recommend starting with a fricative. That's an F, a V, an S, or an approximate like an L or a W. Like instead of saying I say Y. Just make the W like a very small portion. Why? That will help get rid of that attack and make sure that you're real open without false chord. So I would recommend definitely starting with that. Nasals are your M and your N that you're probably going to use. Those aren't bad. You can start with those. But I would recommend starting with the approximants and the fricatives until you get a good sounding false chord scream that doesn't hurt. After that, I'd go for the nasals, but it's possible to do a nasal and do the epiglottis, do it wrong. So I would go for the others just to avoid that attack sensation, avoid that clicking of the vocal cords. And once you've learned to make it without it, go for it. Do it with stops, do it with nasals and all of that. The final one is just showing you how to do the vibrating talk instead of the grunt. So we're not doing, we're not doing a Dark Knight impression, and we're not doing a forced sigh until we get the distortion. What I would do is the best way that I get to make the vibrating noise, the yeah, I would try doing the velar fricative. If you don't know what that is, think like making a K sound and then holding it out. Almost like a hiss. That's voiceless. And then I'd try adding in a teeny bit of voice and see if you can get a little bit of a rumble. That should give you that talking through a fan sound. And once you have that, then do what I have in the first video. Do the and add a bit of a push for your diaphragm. So just do that. When you're practicing until you get it down, start with the non-attack based vocals and you should be good to go.